Hello everyone and welcome to another random bits and pieces segment from my brain, and today, sit a while for we are playing some more Franchise Hockey Manager 6 as part of the Ottawa Senators. So right off the bat, I do want to apologize. It would appear that I have been recording with the music playing in the background. Thanks to the software that I use to record, it updated and made changes, and some of the plugins got changed, and anyway, I'm not going to get into too much of it, but as it turns out, I thought that my volume for the music that I'm listening in the background while I'm recording, I thought that was mute, and it was not. And it was even too loud, apparently. So I do want to apologize for that. I'm a little bit embarrassed by that, because I do try to put out decent videos and everything. So I'm not too happy about that mistake that I made, but I mean, what it is what it is. So lessons learned. So you shouldn't be hearing the music anymore. And now the cat is out of the bag. I am a big geek, and I do listen to video game music as part of what I do. So anyway, so that's all I'm gonna say about that. That shouldn't be happening in the future. I got rid of a bunch of plugins that were in there, and I'm keeping things ridiculously simple now, so hopefully it's going to be fine. But if you do hear something weird again in the future, please let me know so that I can fix that. Alright, so with that being said, March is upon us, and the trade deadline is nearing. As you know, I needed to get rid of Ryan Callahan, so that happened. I made the trade. I had a few pretty interesting offers, to be honest. I really hesitated on that one. Thing is that I was pretty dead set into getting a defenseman. So in the end, that might have played into the balance into my final decision. So we're gonna go ahead and see here. So I traded Ryan Callahan to Washington for Ryan Whitney. So I'm hoping that Ryan Whitney is gonna be good for a couple more years and be able to put up points, because I have a Mark Streit that declined and that I am not going to be bringing back. So hopefully Ryan Whitney can slide in for a couple years until, Erik Karlsson and Drew Doughty and Alex Pietrangelo get in their full stride. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. Now, among the other players that I hesitated, that I really wanted, there's one that was very tempting, but it was a forward. The Stars offered me Jerome Iginla. So Iginla is a 3-star player in my universe now, and he's 32. He's starting to decline. He's not putting up as many points and everything, but he still would have fit on the team pretty good, I think. But I'm really lacking in D, and I wanted something on the back end. The only other defenseman that I thought about it was from Montreal, and it was François Beauchemin. And Beauchemin would have been probably a good addition as well, but I didn't want to trade yet another decent player to a team in my division. So I opted for Ryan Whitney. He's 27, so he should have a couple years still where he's able to put up points and everything. I know that in real life he started to decline pretty early in his career and everything, so hopefully that's not going to happen for me. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So to make room for him, I am sending Andre Mazzaros back down. Hopefully he doesn't get claimed on the waivers. Pro tip, he won't. That's a thing with the game, unless that got fixed in an update. The computer never claims any of your players. And to make up for trading away Ryan Callahan, I recalled Sam Gagner. So Sam Gagner is going to be back in the lineup. And now we have Ryan Whitney, of course. So we are all set to go now. Alright, so Eugene Melnick is very happy with my work as we went 7-0-0 into the shortened February month, or month of February. And there's been a trade between the Blackhawks and the Bruins. Alright, so Daniel Corso and Mikko Koskinen are going to the Bruins for Eric Christensen and Jared Allen. So a little bit more of a smaller trade, not that big of a trade. Alright, and we are about to start March, so it looks like it's going to be a pretty busy month. We are starting with a home game, so it looks like we're going to be alternating home and away games until we go on the road. Wow, actually it's going to be a couple road trips with a few home games sprinkled in. So the Rangers are 24, 33, and 5 this season. That's good for 11th in the East. So not too good for the Rangers this season. And we are 3-0 against them this season, against the Blue Shirts. So let's see if we can beat them again. Alright, so Al Montoya is going to be in net for the Rangers. We are going to go to Antti Niemi. And we won 2-0, so we start the month on a pretty good note here with a shutout. So we outshot the Rangers 50-12. Al Montoya was the first star of the game despite the loss with 48 saves. Mark Stahl was the second star without any points, and Marian Osa was the third star with a goal. 18,279 people in attendance for this game. So nobody scored in the first, and then in the second period we have Marian Osa scoring from Pavel Datsyuk and Alex Pietrangelo. So that was 1-0 Sens after 2. And then in the third period Alexander Radulov scored from Sam Gagner and Scott Niedermayer, and 2-0 was the final score in that one. And Datsyuk has a day-to-day injury, he's out for 5 days. And Scott Niedermayer converts back to left defense, where he probably should have been all along. Alright, so let's see here. Right, so Datsyuk won't be able to play, but it's only for a few games. Other than that, alright, I think we're good. Oh, there's one thing that I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it off screen, but I'm going to do it now before I forget. Alright. So I did trade for Ryan Whitney, but that's his last contract year, so I want to re-sign him. So how much are you asking for? Okay, it's only a slight upgrade over what you're already making, so I am totally fine with that. There you go. And it's 3 years, so I'm totally content with that. We should be fine, hopefully. Alright, so let's advance the days. Patrick Kane extends his goal streak to 7 games with a goal and an assist against the New York Islanders. So pretty nice little streak for him. Red light stays on for Vili Peltonen of the Islanders with a hat-trick in that same game against the Blackhawks. Oh, so I guess Mike Sullivan runs out of rope. So Mike Sullivan lost his job as the coach for the Devils. So Devils are terrible. They are 18, 39, and 5. So he got fired, and he is replaced by our good friend Don Waddle. So the undying Don Waddle. There was no stopping Jeff Carter, who apparently is giving some ammo to one of my viewers who keeps telling me that I made a mistake by not trading Ryan Miller to the Flyers for Jeff Carter and taking Petrus Bergeron instead. So Carter had a 4-goal game against the Lightning. So pretty good game for Jeff Carter. So that gives him now 79 points in 61 games. So Might have a case, at least for the offensive aspect of the game, for sure. Petrus Bergeron is a very well-rounded player, though, so that's what I went for. I have plenty of offense already, but yeah, I can see that Jeff Carter would have been a pretty decent pick as well. Alright. Oh, Tuukka Rask extends with Washington, so 2 years, so 6.310 per year. Alright, and we signed Ryan Whitney. Alright, and it is the trade deadline, so I don't know if there's going to be a lot of trades or not. I know I'm not forcing anything, I already did my one trade I wanted to make. There's been a trade, at least. Alright, so... a trade between the Rangers and the Canadiens. Oh god, that's not a big trade. So Joey Crabbe and Marc-Andre Clich are going to Montreal for Teddy Purcell and Jonas Nettinen. So I would say that the Rangers probably won that trade. Teddy Purcell is a decent player. Yeah, so Montreal has been really good in their trades in my universe so far, but I think they lost that one. I think Teddy Purcell is a better player than Joey Crabbe. Alright, so we are now going to be playing in Carolina against the Hurricanes. Hurricanes are also not doing too good. They are 21, 37, and 4. That's good for 12th in the East. We are 2-0 against the Hurricanes this season. Let's see if we can beat them on the road. So Antti Niemi gets the start again after getting a shutout in his last game, and Cam Ward is going to be in net for the Hurricanes. Ooh, we lost 4-3. Well, that's not good. So we outshot the Hurricanes 44-16. Francis Lemieux was the first star of the game. He had 4 assists. Drew Doughty was the second star with a goal, and Dan Heinold was the third star with 2 goals. Alright, so nobody scored in the first. Then in the second period, Carolina scored 2 quick goals, took a 2-0 lead, and then Eric Kundra scored his 5th from Martin Havlat and Scott Niedermayer, and it was 2-1 Canes after 2. I'm so used to being ahead, I made a little mistake there. Carolina scored in the third, made it 3-1. Then Drew Doughty scored from Petrus Bergeron and made it 3-2 Carolina. Then Carolina scored, made it 4-2. Then with 18 seconds left to go in the game, Matt Stajan scored from Anton Volchenkov, but that was too little too late. We couldn't get that other goal in those remaining 18 seconds, and we lost 4-3. Whoop a nice lead, so products of night for Francis Lemieux. We were there, we saw that, and Zdeno Chara is finally going to be back in the lineup after serving his ridiculously long suspension for a guy that was never suspended before, or maybe once. Alright, we are going to go back home to play a quick home game before we hit the Western Canadian road trip of the calendar. Philip Novak is also back in the lineup in Washington after serving his suspension. And we are going to be playing the Leafs. Claude Giroux keeps fans on their feet all night. He had a hat-trick against Buffalo. So Claude Giroux, pretty good already. Martin St. Louis has a memorable game. He had 4 assists against the Buffalo Sabres in that same game. Travis Moen is back from suspension in Buffalo. Alright, so the Leafs are in town. They are sporting a 35, 23, and 5 record. That's good for 7th in the East, so doing alright over there. We are 3-1 against the Leafs this season, and we are just coming off a loss, so of course we are gonna come out hungry. Jonas Gustafsson is in net for Toronto, and Brian Elliott gets his net back for the Sens. And we won 3-2 in overtime, so they made us work for it. Oh yeah, and the shots were pretty decently distributed as well. We outshot Toronto 38-30. Alexander Radulov was the first star of the game. He had a goal. Second star is Jonas Gustafsson with 36 saves. And Eric Cole was the third star with a goal. 19,075 people in attendance for that game. Alexander Radulov scored first in the first period. That was a power play goal from Zdeno Chara and Chris Kelly. And then Toronto scored after that to tie the game at 1. Then in the second period, we had Matt Stajan score from Drew Doughty and Mike Fisher. And then Toronto tied the game again. So it was tied at 2 after 2. Nobody scored in the third period, which means that we went to overtime. Nobody scored in overtime, which means that we went to the shootout, where Patrice Bergeron scored and then nobody else did. So 3-2 is the final score today. Matthew Schneider played in his 1500th game in his career against the Kings. Didn't get a point. So 1500 games, that's quite a few games. A 40-year-old Matthew Schneider is still a 2.5-star defenseman, so still pretty serviceable. Alright, and now we are heading west to go face the Oilers. Marcus Naslund has obtained 500 assists in his career. Got a goal and an assist against Carolina. So 36 years old Marcus Naslund, still a 2-star player. And in that same game, Tobias Enstrom had a great game. He had 4 assists. Brian Wilsey is back from suspension in LA, so back in the lineup over there. Alright, and we are now in Edmonton to face the Oilers. So, Oilers still not doing all that good. They are 27, 29, and 9. And we have won the only game against them this season. Alright, so Brian Elliott is in net for us. Devan Dubnyk is in net for the Oilers. And we won 2-1, so another tight game. 2-1 in overtime, even. Sorry. Alright, so actually it's in the shootout again. So we outshot the Oilers 27-22. Patrice Bergeron was the first star of the game. He had a goal. Jeff Petrie was the second star with a goal as well. And Alex Pietrangelo was the third star with an assist. Oh, so Ryan Whitney had an illegal check to the head and a game misconduct. Hopefully he's not suspended for too long. Right, so nobody scored in the first, nobody scored in the second. We had to wait all the way to the start of the third period to see Patrice Bergeron score his 15th from Alex Pietrangelo. And then Jeff Petrie tied the game with 1:30 left to go in the third period. And then in the overtime, Patrick Eves was the only one to score. So we got a 2-1 victory. And Ryan Whitney is suspended. Welcome to Ottawa, Ryan Whitney. You played a handful of games. I know you get suspended for 7 games. Oh my god. Well, I guess we're not going to be able to really gauge all that well. How that trade is turning out for us. Oh. This game sometimes. Ryan Getzlaf extends his goal streak to 5 games with a goal against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Big game for Olli Jokinen playing for Boston. He had 3 goals and an assist against Toronto. Alright, Pavel Datsyuk might be back soon. Martin Ansel was hurt. He might be back soon as well. Alright, Ruslan Soleil played in 1,000 games in his career. Didn't get a point. That happened against the Buffalo Sabres. 35 years old. Ruslan Soleil still a star and a half defenseman, so he's probably going to be done here pretty soon. Alright, and Ansel is back in the lineup. Well, if Lindy Ruff wants to play him, that is. Alright, so we are going to be facing the Calgary Flames. In Calgary, they are 28, 29, and 9, so not doing all that great over there. We are 1-0 against the Flames this season. Let's see if we can beat them on the road. So Brian Elliott in net for us, Craig Anderson in net for the Flames, so good old Andy is there. And we won 41, so a little bit more of a convincing win here. We needed one of those, but the shots were not, the shots are still pretty realistic here. We outshot Calgary 29-22. Joe Thornton was the first star of that game. He had a goal and an assist. Patrick Eves was the second star with a goal, and Scott Niedermayer was the third star with an assist. Calgary scored first in the first period. Then we tied the game up in the second period. It was Patrick Eves scoring his 15th from Mark Streit. It was tied at 1 after 2. And then in the third period, Chris Kelly scored on the power play from Alexander Radulov and Joe Thornton. Then Joe Thornton scored his 25th from Scott Niedermayer and Pavel Datsyuk. And finally, Eric Kondra scored in an empty net from Zdeno Chara and Alexander Radulov. 4-1 is the final score. Alright, so Datsyuk is feeling better. He actually played this game, so we know he's okay. Jaromir Jagr keeps fans on their feet all night. He had a hat-trick against the Devils. Alright. And Pavel Datsyuk is now fully healed, so all we're missing is Ryan Whitney. Alright, so we are now playing in Vancouver against the worst team in the league. The Vancouver Canucks have a horrendous record of 15-46-6, and of course they have both the Sedin twins hurt, so that's not really helping them. Even with them in the lineup, their team is really not all that great, so they're gonna need to start doing something here, maybe make a trade or something. Well, not this season, because the trade deadline is behind us, but maybe in the off-season they're going to need to make a move there, because that team is struggling mightily. So we are 1-0 against Vancouver this season. Brian Elliott in net for us, Corey Schneider in net for the Nucks. And we won 3-2. We outshot Vancouver 38-16. Mark Streit was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals. Shurakov, what's his first name? Sergei Shurakov was the second star with 2 assists, and Marian Osa was the third star with an assist. So Mark Streit opened up the scoring in the first from Marian Osa and Pavel Datsyuk. It was 1-0 Suns after 1. Then Vancouver tied the game, and then Mark Streit scored again. That was his 10th on the power play from Chris Kelly and Joe Thornton. So it was 2-1 Suns after 2. And then we took a 3-1 lead with Alexander Radulov scoring his 15th from Zdeno Chara and Scott Niedermayer. And then Vancouver scored, made it 3-2 with 1:50 left to go in the third period, but they could never get that third goal past Brian Elliott, and we won 3-2. Chris Pronger played in his 1000th game in his career. That happened against Phoenix, didn't get a point. 35 years old Chris Pronger, only a star and a half player anymore, so yeah, not doing all that great for Chris Pronger. Corey Stillman has achieved 300 goals in his career with a goal and 3 assists against Buffalo. So pretty good game for Corey Stillman. 36 years old and still a 3-star player. I haven't heard much about Corey Stillman in my sim. We've seen his name a few times here and there, but he's already 36. Of course, in real life, he played briefly for the Sens. That didn't turn out. That trade really didn't pan out for the Sens at that point. Derek Armstrong has competed in 1,000 games in his career. Got a goal to celebrate that against Phoenix. So 36 years old, Derek Armstrong, a star-and-a-half player. So, and Nick Tarnowski in Tampa Bay is suspended. He's going to miss 9 games. That's a long time. Alright, and we are back home, and we are going to be facing the Leafs. But first, there was no stopping Yuri Novotny, who had a hat-trick against Detroit. Alright, so we are hosting the Leafs. So I believe that prior to our road trip, our last home game was against the Leafs. So now we're coming back from the road trip, and the Leafs are back in town again. So they are now 37, 26, and 6. They are still 7th in the East, and we are now 4-1 against them. They are still sending Jonas Gustafsson in net. We're going to send Antti Niemi for that one. Let's see if we can win. And we won 3-0, so another shutout for Niemi. We outshot the Leafs 47-15. Drew Doughty was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Joe Thornton was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Pavel Datsyuk was the third star with a goal. 16,605 people in attendance for that game. Alexander Radulov opened up the scoring in the first with a power play goal from Mark Streit and Joe Thornton. Then in the second period, we had Pavel Datsyuk score from Drew Doughty and Marian Hossa, and then Joe Thornton from Drew Doughty. And it was 3-0 Sens. After 2, nobody scored in the third, and that was the end of that game. 3-0 the shutout. Nice little game for the Sens. Oh, that's not good for the Panthers, and the Panthers are actually good this season. Jay Boomister is hurt. He's going to miss 2 weeks. Okay, that's not too bad. Usually when there's a news like that, it's for a few months at least. So I was like, oh, they're going to be missing their best player for the playoffs. But yeah, he should be back. Alright, and we are going to be looking at Sidney Crosby, who had a good game, a hat-trick against New Jersey. Yeah, there's really no stopping Crosby in this game. He's always going to be really good, I'm pretty sure. Alright, so we are starting another little road trip here. 3 more games on the road, and then we're going to be alternating home and away games for the rest of the month. So we are going to be heading in Atlanta first. So the Thrashers are 34, 30, and 5. That is good for 8 in the East. I couldn't find them. I probably passed over the NHL logo, passed over it 5 times, and I just couldn't compute in my brain, I guess. Alright, so they are 8 in the East, and we are 3-0 against the Thrashers this season. Let's see if we can make it a perfect 4-0. Antti Niemi gets the start again. He got a shutout in his last start. Kari Lehtonen is going to be in net for the Thrashers. And we won 4-2. We outshot the Thrashers 37-16. Joe Thornton was the first out of the game. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. Ilya Kovalchuk was the second star with 2 goals, and Drew Doughty was the third star with 2 assists. So Drew Doughty starting to put up points and everything, so that's good. Alright, so Joe Thornton scored the first goal of the game in the first period from Patrick Eves. It was 1-0 Sens after 1. Then Brooks Like scored from Joe Thornton and Drew Doughty. Then Atlanta scored, made it 2-1 for us. Then Zdeno Chara from Brooks Like and Joe Thornton, 3-1 Sens at that point. Then Atlanta scored, made it 3-2. And then in the third period, Joe Thornton scored from Drew Doughty, make it 4-2. And that was how this game ended, with a 4-2 victory for the Sens. Again, Sidney Crosby keeps fans on their feet all night. He had another hat-trick, this time against the Bruins. Ooh, Brian Giunta in New Jersey is out for 4 months with torn ankle ligaments. Well, the Devils weren't going to be making the playoffs anyway, but it still sucks for them, I guess. And in that same game, Martin Brodeur played in his 1,200 games. So he did win that game, and Brodeur is now 37 years old, and he's a 4-star player. Still. Still pretty good over there. Alright, so Steve Bégin is not suspended in Calgary. Still in the lineup over there. And we are ready to face the Dallas Stars, who could have been without Jerome McGinley if I would have picked him over Ryan Whitney. Technically, it probably would have been the better trade in a hockey sense, but for what I needed, made a little bit more sense to get the defenseman. Alright, so we have not played the Stars this season, so they are hovering right at the 500 mark there. They are 34, 33, and 3. Let's take a look at their lineup here. Oh, so Mike Smith is hurt, so their best goaltender is, not going to be playing. So it's going to be Jonas Hiller and Mike Brodeur in net. So yeah, that's definitely not as good. Hiller as your backup with Mike Smith as your starter is a lot better. Dmitry Kalinin, Robin Regier, Andrew Alberts, Matt Niskanen, Ruslan Sully, and it's Neil Oistrik. I think Nathan Oistrik, got it wrong. Yeah, that D's not all that great. David Clarkson, UC Jokinen, Danny Eatley. God, I have a blank. Derek Dorsett, I think. Yeah, Derek Dorsett. James Neal. Joel Lundqvist. Johnson, Kapanen, Stapleton, Morrow, Ben, Iginla, Emsky, Axelson, and Thorburn. Yeah, that's not that great of a team. They're going to be struggling, and I guess they are playing 500. Alright, so we are in Dallas. So we're still going with Ansi Niemi in net. Jonas Hiller is going to be in net for the Stars. And we won 1-0, so another shutout, but we had to work for that one. Although we did outshoot Dallas 49-16 in that one. Jonas Hiller was the first star despite the loss. He had 48 saves. James Neal was the second star without a point, and Mark Streit was the third star with an assist. Alright, so the only goal of the game happened in the second period. It was Joe Thornton scoring on the power play from Mark Streit and Patrice Bergeron, 1-0 Sens, and that's how this one ended. Not a whole lot more to talk about than that. Alright, Claude Giroux extends his point streak to 12 games with 2 assists against Atlanta. Franz Nielsen is not suspended with the Islanders. Alright, and we are now going to be playing in Montreal against the Habs. Alex Tanguay has a great game. He had a hat-trick against the Ducks. Claude Giroux's point streak ended at 12 games. It was held scoreless against Atlanta. Martin Straka has recorded 750 assists in his career, with an assist against St. Louis. Martin Straka is 37 and he's a 2.5-star player, so... Brendan Shanahan is back from suspension in St. Louis. And Jason Spezza is ready to resume skating. Now that's a good news. Alright, so there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games left in March. And we are going to be alternating away and home games for the duration here. So that starts in Montreal against the Habs. They are 43, 23, and 6. That's good for 5th in the East. We are 3-0-2 against Montreal this season. We have not lost in regulation against them, but they did beat us twice in either the shootout or overtime. Alright, so Antti Niemi is going to be in net for us. So Yaroslav Halak is going to be in net for Montreal. And we won 5-2. We outshot Montreal. They always play us tight in the shots, Montreal. Actually, they outshoot us. I'm not sure why, but we outshot them this time 29-21. Eric Condra was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Patrice Bergeron was the second star of the game with a goal and an assist. And Joe Thornton was the third star with a goal and an assist as well. Alright, so Joe Thornton opened up the scoring in the first period. It was his 30th of the season from Eric Condra. And then Montreal tied the game at 1. And then Patrick Keefe scored from Joe Thornton and Zdeno Chara. And then Mike Fisher from Mark Streit and Eric Condra. 3-1 Sens after 1. Then nobody scored in the second period. And in the third, Montreal scored to make it 3-2, but we scored 2 more goals. Chris Kelly scored his 20th on the power play from Patrice Bergeron and Mark Streit. And then Bergeron scored in an empty net from Pavel Datsyuk. 5-2 Sens. Final score. Sam Gagner converts to left wing. Alright, and we are now heading back home the very next day to play against the Flyers. Alright, so Philly is also having a pretty great season. They are 53-18-1. That's good for 2nd in the East. They are behind us. We are 2-1 against the Flyers this season. Alright, so as usual in net, the Flyers are struggling there. I wanted to take a look because I was asked if the Flyers got a goaltender and if they had Bobrovsky in net. So it doesn't look like Bobrovsky is there just yet. So he should be showing up soon, too. Alright, so... Yep, Flyers are in town. We are 2-1. Go Sens go. So Jeremy Duchesne in net for the Flyers. Brian Elliott in net for us. Oh, we lost 3-0. So the Flyers shut us out. Flyers outshot us 30-29. Duchesne was the first out of the game with 29 saves, the W and a shutout. Martin St. Louis was the second star of the game with 2 goals, and Jeff Wojciechowski was the third star with an assist. Alright, so nothing much to say here other than one of my viewers has some bragging rights. Oh, Ryan Whitney is back from suspension, so we get to see him play a couple games before the month ends. Alright, so we're hitting the road again for one game. We're gonna go play in Buffalo here in a few days. Jere Lehtinen has competed in 1,250 games, celebrated with an assist against the Boston Bruins. 36 years old, Jere Lehtinen, he is down to a star-and-a-half player now. Yeah, looks like he's going to have a very similar season to last year. Alright. David Petrasek in Vancouver is suspended. He's going to miss 3 games. Alright, and now we are going to be in Buffalo. So Josef Stumpel has recorded 1,250 games played in his career. That was against Tampa Bay. Didn't get a point. Josef Stumpel, 37 years old, 1.5-star player. And former Ottawa Senator Patrick Elias played in his 1000th game for the Wild. By the way, the Wild offered him to us for Ryan Callahan. So I said no, of course. No points for Patrick Elias in his 1000th game. That was against Philadelphia. 33 years old, still a 3-star player, so he's not a bad player. I wanted a defenseman. I got one. Alright, so we're playing in Buffalo. Sabres are terrible, as we know. They are 21, 47, and 4. That's good for 15th in the East. We are 4-0 against the Sabres this season. Alright, we're going to Brian Elliott in net, and Rob Zepp is going to be in net for Buffalo. We lost 5-3, so a few losses here. Aye. Alright, so we outshot Buffalo 48-23. Jason Pominville was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 2 assists. Zdeno Chara was the second star with a goal, and Patrick Marleau, who was briefly an Ottawa Senator, is the third star with a goal and an assist. So Buffalo scored first, then Zdeno Chara tied the game from Patrick Eaves and Joe Thornton, and it was tied at 1 after 1. Then in the second period, Buffalo scored, made it 2-1. Then they scored at the start of the third period to make it 3-1. Then we tied the game, so we had Datsuk scored his 25th from Marian Hossa and Patrice Bergeron, and then Brooks Laich from Pavel Datsuk and Patrice Bergeron. It was tied at 3, but then Buffalo scored twice before the end of the third, and they ran away with a 5-3 win. Travis Moen and Zdeno Chara fought. I think it's not the first time they fought. And that's about it. We lost again. Not good. Ooh, Eric Brewer is available. Lassi Kukkonen and Mike Brodeur. Alright, and we don't have a whole lot of time to feel sorry for ourselves with that second loss in a row there, because the very next day we are hosting the Florida Panthers, a pretty good team. They are 49, 20, and 4. That's good for third in the East. We are 2-0 against the Panthers this season. Alright, Jacob Markstrom is going to be in net for Florida, and Antiniemi is going to be in net for us. And we won that one 5-0. There you go. That's more like it. We outshot Florida 39-15. Joe Thornton was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and an assist. Ryan Whitney, finally, we see his name here. He was the second star with 2 assists, and Brooks Laich was the third star with 2 assists as well. 15,285 people in attendance for this game. Patrice Bergeron was the first star of the game. Was the first to score a goal. Not the first time I've made that mistake, but when you speak non-stop for about 45 minutes, it's bound to happen, sadly. So Bergeron scored first on the power play from Chris Kelly and Joe Thornton. Then Joe Thornton scored from Brooks Laich and Ryan Whitney. 2-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Martin Ansel scored from Ryan Whitney and Matt Stajan. Then Drew Doughty from Patrice Bergeron and Pavel Datsyuk. And finally Joe Thornton from Alex Pietrangelo and Brooks Lake. 5-0 Sens after 2. Nobody scored in the third period. There was a fight between Zdeno Chara yet again and Tanner Glass. Gregory Campbell not suspended for the Panthers despite having a illegal check to the head. Right, John Paul is available. Not gonna pick him up. Zygmunt Palffy has reached 500 goals in his career with a goal and an assist against the Islanders. No, he plays for the Islanders. That was against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sorry. Alright, so 2 points for Palffy. So 500 goals, and he is 37 and a 2-star player. Matt Niskanen will miss 5 months. Yikes. So Dallas was right on the brink there of maybe being in the playoffs, playing right around 500. And Matt Niskanen was their best defenseman. He's now hurt for 5 months. So if they do make the playoffs, he's probably not playing. Jordan Tutu in Nashville was suspended. He's going to miss 7 games. Viktor Kozlov has played in his 1000th game, so he's been very quiet, Viktor Kozlov, in this sim. So that happened against Vancouver. Didn't get a point. 35 years old, and he's a star-and-a-half player. Doug Weight has achieved 300 goals in his career, with a goal and an assist against Toronto. 39 years old, Doug Weight, 1 star-and-a-half. So Doug Weight's pretty much right around done there. Alright, and in a couple days we'll be playing in Washington against the Capitals. Patrick Kane has a strong game. He had 4 goals and an assist against Columbus. Pretty good game indeed. Excellent passing leads to productive night for Jonathan Toews, who had a goal and 4 assists in that same game. Ooh, Yevgeny Malkin in Pittsburgh is suspended. He's going to miss 2 games. He has a little bit of a temper, Yevgeny Malkin, so I guess somebody pissed him off in that game and he retaliated or something and then got suspended. Ilya Kovalchuk has a great game, 3 goals against Carolina. Right, and we are now in Washington to play against the Capitals. It's also going to be the last game of this video, as it is the last game in March. So Washington are pretty good. They are 43, 27, and 5. That is good for 6th in the East, and we are 2-1 against the Caps. This is our first game against them since I made the trade. Alright, so Antti Niemi is going to be in net for us. Tuukka Rask is going to be in net for Washington. And we lost 5-3. Ryan Callahan gets the last laugh. Washington outshot us 29-28. Alex Burrows was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Patrice Bergeron was the second star of the game with a goal and 2 assists. And Carl Alsner was the third star with 2 assists. Alright, so Washington scored 2 goals in the first, then Radulov scored for us on the power play from Bergeron and Thornton, then Washington scored again, made it 3-1. Actually, it was Ryan Callahan that scored that one. And in the second period, Pavel Datsyuk scored from Patrice Bergeron and Alex Pietrangelo. Made it 3-2 Washington, but then Washington scored, made it 4-2, and then Bergeron scored on the power play from Radulov and Chara. It was 4-3 Washington after 2. And then Andrew Brunette and Zdeno Chara fought in that period as well. And then Washington scored their fifth and last goal in the third period. It was 5-3, but we couldn't tie the game, and we lost the last game of the month 5-3. Memorable game for Oleg Tverdovsky with Columbus. He had 4 assists against Tampa Bay. Strong night for Ilya Kovalchuk, who had a hat-trick, 3 goals against Toronto. All right, so now if we look at the standings, we are still first, 17 points ahead of the Flyers. We did lose a few games during the month, so I don't think it's anything to be worried about or anything like that, but it's still worth mentioning. So that's what it looks like in the East. And then in the West we have, Dallas. That's gonna be impossible. They have 6 games left. That's 12 points, 85. Yeah, that's they can't make the playoffs. So Dallas is not gonna be there. They've been losing some games. All right, so Chicago's first: Anaheim, Calgary, Nashville, Detroit, Columbus, St. Louis, and LA Kings. And I would say that there's a good chance that that's going to be the final 8 teams in the West. All right, and then let's take a look at our scores here. Jason Spezza's about to come back, by the way, so he's going to be fresh for the playoffs. All right, so Joe Thornton has 94 points in 77 games. Then big dropout. Second one is Datsuk with 65 points in 70 games. Chris Kelly 55 in 76. Ryan Whitney 54 in 69. Of course, most of those points were with Washington. Patrice Bergeron 54 in 56 games. So kind of have to keep that in perspective as well. When we compare with Jeff Carter, is that Bergeron missed time with an injury at the start of the season. He's basically a point per game. Now Jeff Carter in that particular season is a little bit better than point per game. So I don't think that it was that bad of a decision that I made. And then the points kind of dwindled down from there. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the entire league. So Patrick Kane is the best goal scorer. He has 50 goals on the season. So Crosby is right behind him with 49. Crosby is the best passer with 71 assists. Joe Thornton is third with 62, so 9 assists behind. And Crosby is first for the points with 120. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty good season where Crosby's going to win a whole lot of hardware again. Hopefully not the Stanley Cup, though. Hopefully that's still mine. Alright, so that's where we are at. So we're looking pretty good. Pretty decent record yet again. So yeah, that's where we're going to stop. I've been putting some thoughts about what I'll be doing when the new hockey game comes. I have a few ideas, and I've been provided some ideas by some of you. So I will explore all of my options. Of course, I still have some time to think about it. Even the EA Sports hockey game is coming out later than usual this year with all the pandemic and everything. So the EA Sports game comes out on October 16th, I think. So I don't know when the new franchise hockey manager hockey game is going to come out. Of course, I will be getting it and making a series for it. I will just have to figure out what I do with it. So, anyway, Alright, so thank you for tuning in, and as usual, if you've liked the video, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that good stuff. And until I roll this game again, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.